Today we're making chicken katsu sandos. Traditionally it's made with pork, but I like to do it with chicken. You can do either or. Let's get straight into it.
Starting out, we're going to make a tonkatsu sauce. This consists of 60 grams of tomato ketchup, 40 grams of Worcestershire sauce, 20 milliliters of soy sauce, 0.5 grams of both onion and garlic powder, and 8 grams of sugar. Then we can get in there with a whisk and just mix this up until everything's combined and then store this in the fridge until we're ready to serve. Next, we're going to need one white loaf. This was baked this morning, still a little bit warm. We're going to slice off as much as we need. I recommend doing about 1 to 1.5 inch slices. The thicker the better for this type of thing. And once you do have them sliced, we can then stack these up. And we're going to trim off all of the crusts. Now, you can leave the crusts on. And if you don't have anything else to do with them, I do recommend leaving them on. But you can also save these crusts, dry them out and make breadcrumbs and then even use them for this dish. Traditionally, this is served with crusts off, but what you should have is something that looks like this. For the fillings, we're going to need 300 grams of any white or green cabbage. I recommend separating the layers. It's a lot easier to slice if you do this, and you can also remove the heart, which is that core piece. Just slice this as thin as you can. If you don't want to slice them, you can also grate them or use a mandolin. But just get these as thin as possible, then transfer them over to a bowl with ice cold water. Give it a little mix around. This is going to ensure that it's nice and crisp. Then we can store this in the fridge until we're ready to serve. Moving on, we're going to need 2 large chicken breasts. I recommend butterflying these, which is slicing them horizontally through the center to open them up like a butterfly. Then slice straight through the center to cut these into 2 even-sized fillets. Now in 3 separate bowls or trays, however you want to do it, add 120 grams of plain all-purpose flour. In a separate bowl, crack in 2 whole eggs. We're going to use a fork or a whisk just to mix these up, make sure they're completely smooth and are shell-free as well. We don't want that in this Katsu Sando. And then in the last tray, we're going to add in 110 grams of panko breadcrumbs. Once you have all of that prepared, add the chicken into the flour. We're going to dredge this, make sure everything's coated, shake off any excess, transfer it over to the egg wash, do the same thing again, making sure everything's completely coated, shake off any excess. And then lastly, just place it into the panko breadcrumbs. Push these down, getting everything completely stuck on there, and then place these onto a plate and repeat with the remaining batch. You can also use fine breadcrumbs for this, but panko breadcrumbs do result in a beautiful crunchy texture. In a pan, we're going to fill it about 3/4 of the way with vegetable, sunflower or safflower oil. Don't use canola, that stuff's not good. Then we're going to heat this up to about 170 degrees Celsius or 340 degrees Fahrenheit. In batches, drop in the chicken. I recommend doing 2 at a time depending on the size of your pan. If you're doing this in a deep fry, you could probably get 3 in there. We're going to cook this for about 4 to 5 minutes or until golden brown and cooked through. If your oil's too hot, these will brown too quickly and they won't be cooked in the center, and you can always use a thermometer to make sure everything's correct. Once you have a nice golden crust, the chicken is cooked through. Transfer these over to a wire rack over a baking tray just so that oil can drip off, and you can also hit these up with a little bit of salt as well. Then we'll just repeat this with the remaining batches. When you're ready to serve, we'll pour the cabbage through a colander, get rid of all of that water, give this a quick shake as well, just make sure all of that water is off. Then we can squeeze over about 1/4 of a lemon just to get a little bit of acidity in there. And then we're going to use Kewpie mayonnaise. This stuff is absolutely delicious. I wasn't going to make my own. And the amounts here are completely up to you. I do recommend getting a nice good coating on it. Then mix this up till everything's evenly combined, and you can also hit it up with a little bit of seasoning to taste. Let's then go back to that crispy chicken. Slice it in half. This will make it a lot easier to serve. It will reveal that beautiful juicy center. Drizzle over a decent amount of that Kewpie mayo on both sides of the bread. Don't do it on the side we serve it on, obviously. Then we're going to top it off with that Kewpie cabbage, again on both sides. Add on that crispy chicken. I recommend 1 fillet per sandwich. Any more is just too much and it will fall apart. Then the final thing to do is drizzle over that tonkatsu sauce. This just brings everything together. It balances the flavors so well and it's absolutely delicious. And the last thing we can do is carefully place over the top of that sandwich, making sure it doesn't completely fall apart. Gently push it down just so everything sticks together, and then we can use a really sharp knife, which I'm using from the Cooking Guild, which I've recently partnered up with, and I'll have a link in the description. Just slice this in half to reveal that juicy and crispy center that looks beautiful.
With everything said and done, there is only one thing left to do, and that is we can then dig in.